Hey everyone, it's Sierra. I am here today with kind of a more chit-chatty video. Actually, it's entirely a chit-chatty video, and it has nothing to do with luxury or beauty or makeup or skincare, and it is more on the personal side. So yeah, so I've kind of alluded to this a couple times in earlier videos that I went through IVF with our second child, and a few people kind of asked me to share my experience, and I'm completely fine doing that. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to see how long this is. I may have to cut it into 2 videos just because it's kind of a long story and I'm kind of like tired but wired right now, so I could just like talk for a long time. So we'll see how that goes. Also, before you X out, if this has nothing to do with you, I want to encourage you to watch this anyways, because I don't know if you know, but I believe it was just National Infertility Day or week or month, or I only like half paid attention, but basically 1 in 8 people suffers from infertility, and it's a lot more common than you think. And I think that a lot of people just don't really know that, and they don't really know how to support people that are going through this. And so I think that it really helps for people that have been through this, if they're comfortable, to share it, and for people, if they are comfortable, to listen. Obviously, I know that not everyone is comfortable sharing this, and that is a gazillion % okay. No one should talk about anything if they're not comfortable doing that. And if this is triggering for anyone who has been through anything like this, then please also don't watch. But I just feel like so many other things in our society, this is something that's kind of swept under the rug and not talked about a lot. And I feel like it's something that really needs to be talked about more. So that's just kind of like my sales pitch to watch this video, I guess. Also, I know that this is a controversial topic, so I'm just going to say right now that I know that everyone that watches my channel and that is posted on my videos, you guys are amazing people, and I expect only wonderful things from you. If someone randomly comes upon this video and decides to post anything hurtful or negative, I will just be deleting that because my husband and I and our doctor are very happy with our choices, and that's all that matters. So yeah, so I'm just gonna get started then and kind of talk about this. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you'd like to chat with this offline with me, I am more than happy to do that. I feel like the only reason that I made it through this is because I had a wealth of friends who have gone through this previously. Some friends were going through it as I was going through it, and I could not have done it without them. So please feel free to reach out to me if you need any support, if you have any questions or anything. I'm more than happy to be here for you in any way that I can. So my story starts about 6 or 7 years ago, when my husband and I decided over a meatball sandwich that we were going to start our family. And we started trying, got pregnant the first month. I was shocked beyond belief, and I had an incredibly healthy pregnancy, rather difficult delivery, but yeah, I mean, it literally could not have gotten easier. We couldn't have gotten pregnant easier. Like it was crazy. And so I had a really hard time after with postpartum depression, which is another kind of sensitive topic and something that I actually want to talk about in another video as well. But I'm not going to get into that right now because that is just a whole nother ball of wax. So anyways, it was difficult, and I think that I also just had a really hard time transitioning to being a mother. I just wasn't expecting just how the enormity of what a life change that is. So we decided not to have a second child for a while. Originally, I thought, you know, I would have my kids very close together in age, and I really wanted that. And then after we had our son, we were just like, we just kept putting it off and putting it off. And then finally we decided to start trying again. And we tried for maybe around 6 months, and I just knew, I had this gut feeling when we first started trying even. I just felt like something was off. I felt like something was wrong. And so after 6 months of trying, I was 35 at the time. So I went to see my OB, because that's kind of like the age cutoff where you, you know, if you're young, they'll let you try and try and try unless, you know, you have a reason that something could be wrong. Once you hit 35 and above, they kind of like shorten that timeline because it does get harder to get pregnant even if you do not have any issues. So I went in after 6 months to my OB. She gave us some Clomid, said, you know, you should be fine. Tried it a couple times, and again, in my gut, I just felt like something was off. So I had a couple friends who went to see a reproductive endocrinologist and highly recommended him. So we went to see him, and as it turns out, actually we found this out prior to that. About 6 months prior to that, we found out that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, which for short is PCOS. And it's basically, it's fairly common, and it's just like a hormonal issue. So basically it means that my estrogen runs high, my progesterone runs low, and my insulin also runs high, which is why, totally other topic, but it's really hard for me to lose weight because my insulin is just always really high. So instead of my body kind of burning fat, it burns my high insulin. And that kind of creates a hormone imbalance. So what that can do is create like really irregular cycles, which I've had. So that's why my OB gave me the Clomid, and that can usually regulate that. So it didn't really regulate that. So we went to the reproductive endocrinologist, had like a battery of tests on me, blood work, you know, dye tests in your ovaries to make sure everything's open. Everything came back perfect with me, aside from having mild PCOS. I'm not really going to get too into this next part just for, you know, I'm telling kind of my part of the story right now, but we had some issues in the other department, and we found that out through our reproductive endocrinologist. I'm just going to call him our RE from now on because it's a lot easier. So my husband had some tests done, and then we found out that there was an issue. And so right after finding out that piece of information, it went from, okay, it's not just an easy fix with Clomid, you probably need to do IVF. You can try, which is in vitro fertilization, if anyone doesn't know. And he said you could try to do an IUI, which stands for intrauterine insemination, which is basically they take the male's sperm, and it's basically, imagine a turkey baster. They do that with the sperm. And there's some other things involved too, like it's highly involved, but that's like the very, very dumbed down like way to describe that. So so he said we could try that, or we could go straight to IVF. There is a very large discrepancy in the amount that it costs and the invasiveness of the procedures, and so because of that we decided to try an IUI first. And again, I just, in my gut, I was just like, this, it's not going to work for us, and it didn't. So after that, basically at this point it had now been, I think, a year of us trying. We'd done 2 cycles of Clomid, we'd done an IUI, and I was just like, I'm just done with all this. I just want a baby. I want to get pregnant, and I'm done. We're pulling out the big guns and we're doing IVF. And so we decided to start a cycle of IVF. And so what that means basically is that you, and I'm gonna, like, I could get way more technical, but I'm really gonna do like the not technical at all. So basically you have to grow the eggs, they take them out, they fertilize them, and then they put a fertilized embryo back in. And so for 10 days, you're getting shots in your stomach where you grow the eggs, and then they do what's called an egg retrieval, which is, it's like you go under anesthesia procedure. They remove all of the eggs, they fertilize them. In our case, they did something called ICSI. It's ICSI, and I can't remember what that stands for. But basically, if you have a large sperm sample, usually they will just put them in with the eggs and kind of let them do their business. Because we didn't, what they would do is take an individual sperm and individually fertilize the egg and create an embryo. And so they did that with us. And then this is where it gets a little bit controversial. Again, we had an amazing doctor, and we're really happy with our decision. But these days, with all of these scientific advances, you can do genetic testing on your embryos. Now, what this does not mean is it does not mean you can choose a genius baby. It does not mean you can choose the color eyes of your baby. It does not mean that you can have like a designer baby. What it does mean is that you can tell if there are an abnormal amount of chromosomes in your embryo. And the reason that that is so important is because a lot of times with IVF, you can have a chemical pregnancy, or you will have a miscarriage, and that will be because, you know, the embryo was not viable because it had too many chromosomes or too few, or, you know, something was wrong. And so that is the reason that we chose to do I think it's called pre-genetic testing. I should really know all this stuff, but it's funny, like when you're in it, like, you know everything, like, you know all the acronyms. I knew the name of every single medication I got and when I was supposed to get it. And like, I've kind of like forgotten all of that. It's like once you get your baby and like you're done, like for me at least, it's just, I've like forgotten a lot about it. But anyways, so we chose to do that because we figured, you know what, we are paying a crap ton of money. I'm getting shots all the time. This is emotionally exhausting. Like, we want the best possible outcome. And if that means genetic testing on the embryos, then that's what we're going to do, so that we can be totally sure that we have a healthy embryo. And so we did that, and we got a healthy embryo, and we got our little baby girl. And so we were incredibly lucky to have it work the first time. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's really a hard process, but at the same time, I really feel like it brought my husband and I a lot closer. Not that we were ever not close, but I don't know, there's something about like your partner having to give you a shot every night, and you know, this like intense emotion, it just really like bonded us together. Like we were this team, you know, like I was going through this physical pain and emotional pain, and he just was so amazing and supported me. And yeah, so it was an interesting kind of beauty that came out of this intensely painful situation, that we just became really close, even closer as a couple. So yeah, so that's kind of the short version of my story. And like I said, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask me. I really, like I said, I feel like it's not really talked about, and I feel like every time that I've kind of mentioned it to somebody, they're like, oh my gosh, we had to do this too, or I had to do Clomid, or my sister had to do IVF. And once you start talking about it, like, it's just, I feel like it's really healing and bonding, kind of like how like my husband and I became really bonded when we had to go through this together. When you find out that a friend or a family member kind of had to go through it, you know, and some people are really private about this, and I just want to point out that that is like, there is nothing at all whatsoever wrong with that. If you don't want to talk about this with anybody, I mean, don't talk about it. You know, just whatever you need to do to get through this, do it. If that means keeping it in or just keeping it to like your mom or a close friend, then do that. For me, it really helps for me to talk about things, hence my very long and rambly videos and my love of YouTube in general. And so for me, the more people I could find that I could talk to about it and share and have them say like, oh yeah, this totally sucks, but here's a tip to help you with, you know, the shots, or like, yes, this is terrible and I'm sorry and I love you and I'm holding your hope for you that everything's gonna be okay. So that's my story, and I just wanted to share it because I just really want to let everybody out there know that there is hope, and that I'm holding your hope for you, and that that I'm here for you, and that there are a lot of people here for you if you're struggling and going through this hard time. And yeah, that's it. I'm sorry if this was kind of like a heavy topic, but like I said, I really feel strongly that it's really important to talk about this, just so that other people that feel like they're alone can have someone then to reach out and talk to. Yeah, and that's it. So thank you for watching, and yeah, just thank you. Thank you for watching. Love you guys, and I hope you're having a good night. Bye.